David Headley's recent admission that Ishrat Jahan was an LET operative has yet again brought into spotlight what happened in 2004 when Jahan and 3 others were killed by the Gujarat police in what is suspected to be a fake encounter. We have with us today Uttam Sengupta to shed light on the nuances of this complex case. Let's start with what lies in the heart of the Ishrat Jahan controversy.
You know, if you remove all the clutter, then there are only 2 issues.
Right.
One issue is that whether it was a fake encounter and whether the fake encounters can be legitimized, whether it is acceptable to the system or not. The second kind of issue is that what is the relationship between the Intelligence Bureau and the Central Bureau of Investigation. Okay. If you want to understand this issue, the Intelligence Bureau is one of the oldest intelligence agencies. It dates back to the 19th century. It was set up by the British and so on and so forth, and it doesn't have any legislative framework. There is no law. The Central Bureau of Investigation was set up in the 60s after independence, and there is a law, which guides it, right? So this is a crucial, difference.
Okay.
Now, at the heart of the issue is that 4 people were killed in a police encounter in Gujarat in 2004.
Yeah.
Now, who those people were, what were they doing there, that is besides the point. The point is that they were killed. And they were killed, some people say, in a fake encounter. The police say they were terrorists. They had come there to kill political leaders, and that's why they got a tip off, and in an encounter they got killed.
Okay.
Now, out of those 4 people, 2 people were never identified.
Yeah.
They are said to be Pakistanis. Their bodies were never claimed and so on. The other 2 whose bodies were claimed, one was Ishrat Jahan and the other one was Pranesh Pillai, who had converted to Islam to marry a woman, and he was named Javed Sheikh.
Yeah.
Now, the families of these 2 people, they said that no, they were not terrorists, and there should be a CBI inquiry into it.
Okay.
Now, this is the beginning of this whole issue. And right from the beginning, unfortunately, there were questions being raised about this particular encounter. And, for example, there was a tip-off, from the Intelligence Bureau that there was a specific vehicle with terrorists which had left Bombay and was going towards Ahmedabad,
yeah.
Right? Now, the question was that if they had specific information, why wasn't that car intercepted at any point between Bombay and Ahmedabad?
Right.
Then again, the police claimed, that there was an engagement for half an hour and so on, but not a single policeman, had a single bullet injury, which didn't make much sense. And then, of course, there were other inquiries and so on.
So, this seems to be an extremely complex issue, but the controversy seems to have boiled down to whether Ishrat Jahan was a terrorist or not. How important is it to determine that question?
As far as fake encounter is concerned, her identity as a terrorist, is immaterial. Okay. Whether, she was a terrorist, whether she was a criminal, whether she was a smuggler, or whether she was a woman of bad character and so on and so forth. It has no relevance, to the question whether she was killed in a fake encounter or not. And incidentally, that trial has not yet commenced.
Yeah.
Although, the CBI filed its charge sheet in 2013 in the month of July. 3 years almost have gone by, but the trial has not commenced. So, it really doesn't matter, but it matters to the family.
Yeah.
It matters to the family who are fighting, to prove her innocence, both the families as a matter of fact. But the discourse which we see on television or in the media is that if she had been a terrorist, then it was all right, to kill her.
Yeah.
That is the discourse, which people, seem to be narrating. Now, the difficulty with that discourse is that when civil servants, like the former Home Secretary, says that, when BJP leaders, say that, or when lawyers, say that, or police officers say that, it is a very casual disregard of the law.
Absolutely.
The rule of the law, doesn't permit the police, to take law into their hands, much less the Intelligence Bureau. And the Gujarat police, has all along, held that it was a joint operation with the IB, which is what makes it so very complicated and so very embarrassing for the political establishment and the government. because in a way whatever the Intelligence Bureau does is illegal because they have no legal framework. And now to accept that Intelligence Bureau actually abducted people or planted weapons or killed people and so on will be a huge embarrassment to the government, and that is the question which they are trying to hide, and the focus is sought to be shifted.
So television discussions right now are focusing on two affidavits. So it has been alleged that the second affidavit was dictated by the then Home Minister, bypassed the Home Secretary and changed the complexion of the case. What's your take on this?
You see, what is an affidavit? An affidavit is merely a statement which is sworn and filed before the court. So there are two affidavits, both were filed in the year 2009. The first one in August and the second one in September, right? What did the first affidavit say and why those affidavits were filed? The affidavits were filed in response to the petitions filed by the families of Ishrat Jahan and Pranesh Pillai. Those families wanted a CBI inquiry, and the Gujarat High Court asked the Union of India to file an affidavit and respond to that plea. Now in the first affidavit, the Union of India said that we object to the CBI inquiry because these people were terrorists, because there is evidence to suggest that they were terrorists and so on and so forth. Now this first affidavit was extremely problematic because the Union of India was actually subscribing to the idea that if they were terrorists, then it was all right to kill them in a fake encounter or in cold blood. Now obviously at some point they would have realized how poorly drafted this affidavit was. Now when a former Home Secretary like Mr. G.K. Pillai says that he takes responsibility for the first affidavit, I am horrified. I am absolutely horrified. What does the second affidavit say? The second affidavit says to the court that the Union of India shares intelligence inputs with the states. Intelligence inputs are not evidence. And if the High Court so wanted, and if it wanted to order a CBI inquiry, the Union of India will have no objection. Now, I think the second affidavit was more sensible. They tried to extricate themselves from the mess created by the first affidavit, and it was a legally far more valid and a mature document, So now this discourse that by filing the second affidavit, it was somehow anti-national and so on, it compromised the case and all that, I find it very, very difficult to swallow.
So your report in the latest issue of Outlook states that the trial in this case is yet to commence. So how strong is the evidence that this was in fact a fake encounter?
Well, as I told you, the questions were being raised right from the beginning, from 2004 onwards. But it was for the first time in 2009 that a report came out by the Metropolitan Magistrate of Ahmedabad, SP Tamang. Now, Tamang went into details, and of course, he was a Metropolitan Magistrate, one of the lowest rungs in the judiciary. But he filed a 243-page report, and he said that this was a fake encounter, right? Now, this was challenged before the Gujarat High Court by the state of Gujarat. And the Gujarat High Court, constituted a special investigating team to look into it and stayed the Metropolitan Magistrate's report. The special investigating team, which was being monitored by the Gujarat High Court, filed its report in 2011 and again concluded that the encounter was fake. Now, once that report came in, then the Gujarat High Court ordered that FIRs should be instituted, should be lodged and handed over the probe to CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation. So the CBI came into the picture in 2012, and they found enough evidence again to show that it was a fake encounter, and they filed two charge sheets. One in July 2013, in which they charged Gujarat policemen with staging that encounter, and the next one in 2014 in February, in which they charged 4 officials of the Intelligence Bureau of the offence. So 3 inquiries have actually, said that it is a fake encounter.
Right. So, do you think that this case can ever be settled or resolved?
Well, my personal opinion is that this case will never be solved.
Okay.
Because the simple reason is that, the government, as I told you, is not interested in bringing a legislative framework for the Intelligence Bureau, number one. Number two, it's extremely difficult for the government to acknowledge or admit or even to allow, officers of the Intelligence Bureau to get implicated or to get convicted, in this particular case. And number three, that the Gujarat policemen have been claiming that it was a joint operation. The CBI investigation and charge sheet seem to suggest that it was one, and this is something which the government of India cannot sort of accept.
Yeah.
So if the government is reluctant to accept it, the Intelligence Bureau is reluctant to accept it, so they are in a denial mode. And given the kind of conditions we have, I doubt if the judiciary will have the courage to take on the government and to ask these very, very fundamental questions.
Thank you so much for joining us on Outlook Filter.
Thank you, Arushi. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thanks.